The Australian Financial Review.
I have this big belief in being magnanimous. There's no greater way of being magnanimous as when you lose, whether that's a pitch or a client, and being magnanimous in defeat. And I think when you're doing things like that, it does really help you out in the long term, because I've had clients that we've lost and then 7 or 8 years later we've won back.
Hi, I'm Sally Patton, editor of Boss from the Australian Financial Review, and welcome to 15 Minutes with the Boss, a podcast about success and failure and everything in between, and along the way we're aiming to get some great advice from our leaders. My guest today is Michael Rebelo, the Chief Executive of Publicis Groupe in Australia and New Zealand. Hi Michael, how are you? Thank you for coming into our studio.
Hi Sally, it's great to be here. Good to see you again.
Now Michael, you're the Australian and New Zealand CEO of Publicis Groupe, which is an advertising and public relations company. You employ more than 1,600 people in Australia and New Zealand, and you're the umbrella company for high-profile agencies such as Saatchi & Saatchi, Leo Burnett and Zenith. And I'm reliably told your clients include Toyota, Westpac, Arnott's, Subway and Lexus. And as if that's not enough to get on with, I should say that you are also a judge in our annual Boss Young Executives competition, and indeed you were one of the original winners of the first competition we held in 2004.
That's all above is correct, Sally, and I'm glad to be part of the Boss family, so look forward to continuing that chat today.
Okay, great. Let's start. We've only got 15 minutes. The clock starts now. So, Michael, my first question is, what does your morning routine look like? What time do you get up? What happens?
I tend to get up around 6 a.m, 6:30 a.m, just depending upon how the night before went. I then head straight downstairs. I turn on the ABC News radio, put the kettle on, make my wife and I a cup of tea. I get ready for work. Danny, my wife, starts to get our son ready for school. He's had breakfast. We've had breakfast. Then I get in the car and I do the morning drop-off, and I love it. It's a great way for me to kind of connect with him and catch up with him, even though more often than not, you don't get much out of them, but it's a really nice little journey that we have. And then from there, it's a 40-minute commute to work. And then I'm in the office pretty much 5 days a week. I love being in the office.
Yes, tell me more about why you love the office so much.
Look, I happen to work in an industry where we're just very creative, so therefore our environments are very creative as well. We're an ideas company. Ideas are either created or executed with a team of people. So I love being around that energy. I find it uplifting and motivating. So having people around me is part of my preference, really.
Interesting. So do you think you would be as creative if you all worked at home?
Look, I think you can get by, but I would say that we are definitely more innovative when we're together. You just have those more organic kind of conversations. There's more rub in the corridors, so to speak, versus having to diarise a time to meet and chat and then formally come up with ideas. And that's not how creativity works. Creativity works in all the different spaces of one's day-to-day life, in the office, outside of the office. So I think, for us, we've definitely seen that we were able to survive through COVID, but we're definitely thriving more creatively as a result of being back together.
So do you have any rules at all around coming into the office?
Yeah. Up until January this year, we were probably giving people more of a goalpost to work within. So it was in the office more often than not. And now what we're saying that you have to do a minimum of 3 days in the office, and you can't have more than 2 consecutive days working from home.
Okay.
But you have to be in the office on a Monday. It's a global policy. You have to be in the office on a Monday. And even pre this policy, what I did with my team was I just asked everyone if we could be together on a Monday, and then you could work out what your cadence would be from home or from the office. Because I believe Monday is a great way to start the week. You've got to win the week. And that was a great way to get the team together, discuss what our plan of attack was for the week, how do we align, how do we help each other, and then you go away and do your thing.
Yeah, interesting. I love that. I'm going to take that on board. Okay, Michael, my next question is, tell me about a pivotal moment in your career that really shaped you or changed the nature in some way of what you were doing.
It's a very clear, pivotal moment. I think it was a seminal point in my career trajectory. I was working at Saatchi & Saatchi at the time here in Sydney, in the Rocks at a middle management level. and I was offered the opportunity to move to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam and become the general manager and have full P&L accountability for a business of 40 people. And that for me was where I guess my leadership trajectory really started to accelerate, because prior to that I hadn't run a business. But then I was thrust into this position of, you've got 40 people, a mix of Vietnamese nationals and expatriates, and you're there to lead them, you're there to drive the business forward, you're there to set the strategic direction. And at 27, that was a great learning curve for me. And it wasn't just about having that title and having that accountability. It was really understanding when you went to a market like Vietnam, which was in 2000, and when the expatriates would tend to move to these types of developing markets, particularly in the advertising industry, which wasn't as developed as it is now in Vietnam, your role was really to impart knowledge, to help educate, to train best practice, to take the learnings and the tools and the processes that you learn in Western markets, whether that be Australia, London, or the US, and bring that into a market where people really wanted to learn. So I found myself actually not just being a leader, but being a teacher, and really spending a lot of time in the craft of what we do in advertising, whether that was strategic planning, whether that was really strong account management, whether that was to work through different opportunities, new business pitches. So it's something that I've taken forward since then too, even working in Western markets. I've worked in London and Australia and New Zealand, but at the heart of it's about coaching and teaching, and you never stop doing that as a leader.
Yeah, so leadership for you, at least a large part of it, is coaching.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, Michael, my next question is, what is the best piece of career advice you've ever been given?
Look, Sally, the advice came about shortly after I was recognised in the Boss Young Executive competition back in 2004. And I had a coach at the time who was the chairperson of Saatchi & Saatchi, a lady by the name of Sandra Yates, who was a very well-accomplished businesswoman. And she gave me this advice, which has stayed in my mind for 20-odd years, and that was to master the art of patience and use patience as a strategic advantage for your career. And at the time, patience was not my virtue. When I heard that, I was 31 looking for the next mountain to climb, so to speak. And it was something that it rattled with me, but I had kept it there simmering away. And over time, I now fully understand what she meant, because, look, I think it has a huge application to when you're looking at the world. And I have this very strong belief in that you play the long game. And a lot of business is about the short game, short-term results, that next deal, that next, the monthly or quarterly sales results, right? So I look at the world now with a much longer-term view and make decisions that may not necessarily yield tomorrow, but might yield fruit in a few years' time, is certainly, I think, something that I did probably take from that advice.
So can you give me an example of how you play the long game when you're making decisions at work?
Yeah, look, I think I have this big belief in being magnanimous. There's no greater way of being magnanimous as when you lose, whether that's a pitch or a client, and being magnanimous in defeat. And I think when you're doing things like that, it does really help you out in the long term, because I've had clients that we have lost and then 7 or 8 years later we've won back.
Oh, that's interesting. So when you lose a client or you lose a deal, you make a conscious effort to make sure it ends well.
Professionally, civilly, make sure the transition is absolutely professional and world-class. You make sure you honour all your commitments. You make sure you do right by your people. You make sure you do right by the clients that you're leaving, because you make a lot of friendships in this business too.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a really important way to go about your life.
Yeah, so don't burn bridges.
Burn bridges is another way of saying it, yeah.
Okay, Michael, that is the end of our first section. We are now going to take a short break, but don't go away. We're going to come back and play our lovely Chatterbox game. Welcome back to 15 Minutes with the Boss. I'm here with Michael Rebelo, the Chief Executive of Publicis Groupe in Australia and New Zealand. Now, Michael, this is our section called the Chatterbox. In front of you is this really beautiful cardboard box, inside which I think today we've got about 20 questions. Could you please start fishing in the box and pass me a question, and I will, of course, ask you to answer it.
Sure
so
can.
Start fishing. Have a little forage. Yes, here we go.
There you go, Sally.
Okay, first question. Do you have a favourite productivity hack to help you get more out of your day?
I love voice to text and voice to email. I love being able to do it via voice, and then correcting it yourself, I think, is a great use of time. The other one I've been using for a long time, which is a really simple hack, which is Google Alerts. I have a number of Google Alerts that I set up to keep me informed of latest news or information around my clients, our industry, different brands, because I love being able to send to a client, hey, did you know this is happening with XYZ competitor? And I think that's been really helpful for me over the years to be proactive and add value. So Google Alerts is great for that. You just set it up on the browser and away you go. It comes into your Gmail account every day.
So you, for example, will get information on the competitor of one of your clients and you'll just email them or send them a message and say, hey, did you see that one of your competitors is doing XYZ?
Absolutely. Those two are very simple things to do. They're free. So, yeah, I think all those things help you just show that you care.
And this is a way of you doing it, not spending too much time doing it. So it's actually very time efficient.
And look, sometimes you got to filter because you go, is that really relevant for them? Have they already seen it? It's something I share with the teams as well to go, if you're working on a client's business, you should set these up yourself and make sure that you're trying to add this value as well.
Interesting. I love that. Okay, next question. Let's go. Tell me about a time when you failed at something. How did you recover and what did you learn?
Look, I think we all fail. I think when I was talking about earlier about, when we either lose a big pitch or we don't successfully kind of get an idea through that we were really passionate about or really believed in, there are moments where you kind of have to really kind of go, well, it's a loss, but there's also a learning there too. So
are there any common reasons as to why you might lose a pitch, say?
Not necessarily. I think the art of new business, you need to, I firmly believe there's 50% you can control and the other 50% is up to the pitch gods, because you're operating in a work stream where you have no idea what the other tenderers are doing. And no two pitches are ever the same. There's always learnings about how you may have approached things, either from a strategy perspective, either from an insight perspective, how you showed up to certain meetings, because I believe that every moment in that process is a moment of truth. So you need to really turn up and be at your best at every interaction.
Actually, are there things you do to make sure that you do that? What do you do to make sure that you show up as your best self?
Well, we do a lot of rehearsals for starters, and that's something that is really important, even for smaller interactions, not necessarily for the final big denouement of the presentation. How you respond to procurement, their questions. Are you on time? Are you ahead of time? So all those things are really important. But within all of that, you've got to be yourself. You've got to be authentic. And in these processes, what clients are trying to look at is, what are these people like? Okay, it's great that they've got really great strategic thinking, but are we going to get along? And so you've also got to do, you can't come across too machine slick as well, even though sometimes that's really important. But you've also got to be able to impart who you are as a team, as individuals, and build that connection.
Yeah. So you'll do, say, mock meetings where you do a Q&A to sort of rehearse answers and to make sure that you're on top of all the things you need to be on top of.
Absolutely. Once we've got our proposal together, we will spend time working through what are the different questions that may arise from that, from a commercial perspective through to a strategy perspective to an idea perspective, and be really prepared for that. And that's where you learn from previous experiences too, and taking that forward, that you maybe have not been as prepared, or maybe that question was so left field. How do you make sure you're ready for something like that, that may be with this type of client?
Yeah, that's really good advice. The more prepared you are, the better, but you don't want to come across as being too slick. Okay, Michael, next question, have a fish. What is your favourite party story you like to share?
I did a course in being a sommelier about 20 years ago.
Yes.
And I can help people just very quickly over a glass of wine determine the age varietal, the type of wine, the vintage within about 5 years through a few simple exercises and markers that you can look for, you can smell and you can taste. So that's kind of like a dinner party trick that I might bring out.
So what are the 2 or 3 key things I need to do to determine the wine, the variety, the year?
It's all about the powers of deduction, really, and a lot of it comes out of this, out of the nose and the bouquet. So that's probably where about 70% of your information comes from.
So I have to swoosh the glass?
Swoosh the glass to open up, let it breathe. Sight's another big thing too. Sight can tell you how young a wine is, if it's New World or Old World by the vibrancy, age can come through the translucency on the very edge of the wine. It's called rim variation. The more translucent, the more age there is on a wine because the sediment falls away. Sally, we could do a whole podcast on this if you wanted to, but there's
all this,
quite
and
a
I
few.
haven't even tasted the wine yet.
The tasting is really only to verify your theory.
So if we blind tested you now, how confident are you that you'd get it right?
I would say that I would get probably close to 50% right. And to actually get the certification, you had to get 17 blind taste tests correct out of 21.
Wow.
So I think I could probably get to 10 out of 21 today. You know,
Okay.
So, yeah.
Which is quite a few years later.
Yes.
On that note, Michael, congratulations. You have graduated from the Chatterbox. I now have one final question, which we ask all our guests, and that is, if we gave you a year off, because somehow we were the holiday gods, if we gave you a year off, unencumbered, you could do anything you liked, what would you do?
I'd love to move to New York. I would take my family with me for that year of being unencumbered. I would turn up with my resume to the United Nations headquarters. I'd go to the receptionist and say, here's my CV. I'd love to work in any one of your 17 sustainable development goal areas.
Mm-hmm. And so in what capacity would you like to help them? Literally to do any sort of dog's body work or actually in the advertising communications?
Our expertise is so translatable. Like we could go into communications, we can go into ideas. I think the best thing about what we do is we come up with ideas for problems or solutions, and there's some big problems in this world. So, one of the things that we love doing is being able to help solve problems that can help people. And so I think there's just so many different areas that someone in the advertising and marketing space could go into to help different areas of the United Nations, and then people do, and they've got big communications departments at the UN as well. But I would be quite open. I mean, I'm not qualified to go on the front line, but I could be very helpful in coming up with ideas and helping those come to life and bringing on partners to make that happen.
Okay. That is such an admirable thing. I wish you the best of luck in going to the reception at the UN and with your CV, put it on the desk and see what happens.
Thank you, Sally. I might give it a crack one day.
And that is our time up. Michael, I've loved hearing about the art of patience and how you're really employing that now, and the fact that you play the long game, that you don't worry if you lose a client because they might come back in 5-7 years, who knows. I love the way you prepare so thoroughly for pitches. I love your wine tips. I'm going to put them to very good use. And I love the Google alerts. So simple yet effective. And please do a Google alert for 15 Minutes with the Boss podcast.
Absolutely. I think you already are.
Oh, excellent. I love that. Thank you. Michael, on that note, thank you so much for coming in and allowing us to spend 15 minutes with the boss.
Loved it. Thank you, Sally. Thanks for having me.
And thank you to everyone for listening. If you like the podcast and would like to hear more, please consider sharing the podcast or writing a review, as it helps us to reach more people. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts. At the Financial Review, we investigate the big stories about markets, business and power. For more, go to afr.com, and you can subscribe to the Financial Review, the daily habit of successful people, at afr.com/subscribe. This podcast was hosted by me, Sally Patton, and produced and edited by Lap Fan. Video and audio assistance, and our music theme is by Alex Gow, and our executive producer is Fiona Buffini.
The Australian Financial Review.